Nothing is more important to DS Smith than the health and safety of our employees, contractors and visitors. By working together, we can minimise risk and ensure accidents in the work environment are always preventable. Safety drives everything we do, and we will constantly challenge ourselves to make sure everyone goes home safely at the end of the working day. We aim to provide all employees, contractors and visitors with a safe, productive and rewarding workplace. But safety is a shared responsibility, and the rules you are about to learn are there for a reason. You must follow them. If you don't, you may be asked to leave and could be permanently banned from our sites. At the end of this video, we'll ask you to take a short test to show you understand. So, let's work together. Welcome to this health and safety induction video. Here you'll find out more about how you can make DS Smith a safe place to work and visit. You're working with DS Smith, a leading worldwide provider of sustainable, fibre-based packaging, supported by its own recycling and paper-making operations. You'll be helping us to play a central role in the value chain across sectors, including e-commerce, fast-moving consumer goods and industrials. Through our purpose of redefining packaging for a changing world and our Now and Next sustainability strategy, DS Smith is committed to leading the transition to the circular economy, while delivering more circular solutions for its customers and wider society. We're replacing problem plastics, taking carbon out of supply chains, and providing innovative recycling solutions. DS Smith is a FTSE 100 business and operates in 34 countries, employing around 30,000 people. Here's Paul Clark, Managing Director of DS Smith's UK Packaging Division, to introduce this section.
Hello and welcome to DS Smith. You are about to undertake work at one of our UK packaging sites. We want your visit to be healthy, rewarding and safe. At DS Smith, our goal is zero harm, and we are committed to providing a safe and healthy workplace. Throughout our company, health, safety and environmental protection is everyone's responsibility. On our operating sites, there are many hazards and controls that you need to be aware of before you start work. So please watch and listen carefully during this induction. Each site also has its own requirements that must be adhered to, and your host will make you aware of specific rules and requirements in the area in which you are working. The critical thing is to remember that no task is so important that you cannot take the time to do it safely. If you see any hazards during your visit, please report them to your host immediately. We believe that all injuries are preventable, and we wish you a pleasant and safe visit. Thank you.
Before entering the site, remember to sign in at the designated location and complete any necessary health declarations. Remember, many of our sites make packaging which will be used for food products. It's important that you understand site-specific requirements included in the British Retail Consortium Global Food Safety Standards. New employees, visitors and contractors must adhere to site-specific arrangements for access, such as checking in at the gatehouse or reception. Refer to provided maps for directions to the entrance and how to move around the site safely. Make sure you comply with site speed limits by following signs on site. Reverse parking is mandatory. It means you'll be able to pull away safely with better visibility when you need to leave. As you move around our sites, always use designated, clearly marked walkways that are provided for your safety. You must be vigilant in areas where vehicles operate and only cross vehicle routes when it's safe to do so, using designated crossings. Always use pedestrian doors and entrances as you move around a site. you must never be tempted to walk through a vehicle access point. Make sure you comply with any safety warning signs. If you need more guidance on safety or more PPE, always ask your DS Smith sponsor. Do not use mobile phones while walking on site to prevent distractions and ensure your safety. If you need to make or receive a call, move to a safe place before using your phone. When moving around the site, always use handrails and walkways to maintain safety and prevent accidents. Borders and handrails are there to guide you and keep you safe. We'll always tell you if a fire alarm test is planned while you are on site. If we haven't warned you of a test and you hear an alarm, you must treat it as genuine. If you discover a fire, shout "Fire!" and activate the alarm by smashing a glass panel if you can see one. Notify your DS Smith sponsor or any other member of staff immediately. Only attempt to tackle a fire if you are trained to do so. Make sure you use the right type of fire extinguisher for the job. Familiarise yourself with the site's evacuation procedures and always make sure you know the locations of fire alarms, fire exits and muster points. Regular testing of fire alarms is crucial for your safety. Report any issues promptly to your DS Smith sponsor.
In the event of a fire, follow the site-specific plan, which includes designated muster points for employees, visitors and contractors to gather and account for everyone.
Make sure any equipment you are using is safe and walk to the assembly point. In the event of a fire alarm, you must never go back to work or re-enter a building until told to do so by your DS Smith sponsor.
Visitor or contractor access to a work area must be with a DS Smith sponsor. Before entering the work site, ensure you have the required safety equipment, including orange high-vis for employees and yellow for contractors and visitors, safety boots, ear and eye protection, bump caps and task-appropriate clothing.
Additional PPE may be needed, such as gloves. Remove watches, rings and necklaces, except approved wedding bands, and use appropriate covers. Hairnets may also be required based on your tasks. DS Smith has a zero-tolerance policy to the possession and use of illegal drugs on our sites. We may search bags and vehicles at random to enforce this rule. Anyone found to possess illegal drugs while on our sites will be reported to the police. You must not come to work under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and we may carry out random tests to enforce this rule. Remember that some prescription or over-the-counter medications might impair your ability to complete some work tasks. You must always follow advice from your GP or instructions on packaging. If in doubt, ask your DS Smith sponsor. Fixed blades and non-auto retractable knives are banned from all sites because of their potential to cause severe injuries. Accidental slips or misuses can result in deep cuts or lacerations, potentially leading to infection and significant harm. You must leave any fixed blade or non-auto retractable knives off-site. Tools not identified in your risk assessment and method statement, RAMs, or homemade and poorly maintained tools are banned from our sites. This restriction minimises the likelihood of accidents caused by faulty equipment, enhancing overall safety. Any electrical equipment must have an up-to-date PAT test where required. Taking and sharing photography of products and processes at DS Smith sites is strictly forbidden unless that is part of the purpose of your visit as identified in your RAMs. You must not wear strong perfumes at our sites. These are not allowed under food safety standards. Nail varnish is also prohibited to uphold food safety standards as it can carry bacteria and contaminants, posing a risk in environments like food preparation or healthcare. We don't allow any food or drinks in our work areas. Only water in clear bottles is permitted. If you're a contractor arriving to work at a DS Smith site, we will have asked you to send a risk assessment and method statement, RAMs, ahead of your visit. Once you arrive, you will be given a permit to work, which is necessary for all tasks, except for pre-approved tasks like coffee machine refilling, service cleaners, and hauliers on regular duties. Permits are completed at the place of work and outline the main hazards and control measures that must be followed during your work on site. The permit will confirm the location of your job. All other operational areas are restricted. We'll ask you to sign the permit and keep a copy while you're on site. When you leave or your task is complete, you'll be asked to sign again to close off your permit. Your permit to work is only valid if it's signed by an authorised DS Smith employee. Once work is complete, the area must be returned to a clean and tidy state before the permit is closed off. Each individual contractor working on site will be asked to sign the permit, and permit holders must ensure they work to the terms of their permit. Specific permits may be required based on task reviews, such as working at height, hot work, confined spaces, and more. You can be challenged on safety issues at any time while you're working at a DS Smith site. Your work can be stopped at any time if you are in breach of your permit or any of our site safety rules. When crossing vehicle lanes, only do so at designated points after making eye contact with drivers and confirm positively that it's okay to cross. Always communicate clearly. At DS Smith, strict procedures are in place to prevent vehicle-pedestrian interactions. Pedestrians are not allowed to enter where vehicles are operating without standing down the vehicles first, and likewise, vehicles are not allowed to enter pedestrian areas without standing down pedestrians first. Authorisation to operate specific equipment like forklifts, mobile elevated work platforms, cherry pickers, excavators and mobile cranes requires a permit along with pre-use inspections.
You are only allowed to carry out tasks for which you are trained and competent to do so.
Always adhere to your training and site-specific rules when operating vehicles on site. Transfer cars represent a significant risk on our sites, and as such, access to transfer car lanes is strictly prohibited. Transfer car lanes have a 1.5 metre exclusion zone, which must not be entered unless the car is fully isolated or you are crossing at a designated crossing point. Crossing transfer car lanes is only allowed at designated, clearly marked points and following the crossing point procedures. Much of the machinery on site has complex hazardous energy sources, including electrical, hydraulic, pneumatic, thermal, and stored. When work involves a risk from hazardous energy sources, they must be locked out, tagged out to explain why and by who, and the equipment must be tried or tested to prove hazardous energy sources have been de-energised. All isolation of hazardous sources of energy must be performed by a trained and competent DS Smith employee. DS Smith operate a policy of one lock, one life, whereby everyone working on or near machinery that has been isolated must apply a personal padlock to the isolation in order to ensure safety. Anyone working on a task that has required isolation must also sign the Working Party Declaration to demonstrate that they have placed their personal lock and understand the scope of isolation. DS Smith can issue personal locks if required. You must lock out. Isolate energy sources by physically locking machinery or equipment's power supply to prevent accidental startup. Tag out. Use clearly marked tags to indicate that a machine or equipment is locked out, providing a visible warning to others. Try out. Test the locked out machinery to ensure it's truly inoperative and cannot be started accidentally. The process ensures the safety of workers during maintenance or repair, preventing unexpected energisation and potential accidents. It involves clear communication and verification at each step to maintain a secure work environment. Safety is paramount when you're off the ground. Always use appropriate access equipment like ladders or scaffolds. Secure your footing and maintain 3 points of contact with equipment. Make sure guardrails are in place. If the task involves a fall risk, use fall protection equipment and you must be trained in its use. Follow the hierarchy of control. Avoid working at height where possible. Use collective measures and then personal protective equipment as a last resort. Remember, if you're unsure, ask your supervisor. Safety is everyone's responsibility. We handle various chemicals and substances at our sites. Always consult the safety data sheets, SDS, for each substance to understand potential hazards, handling, and emergency procedures. If you bring any chemicals or substances on site, these should be identified in your RAMs. And you must always inform your DS Smith sponsor. Properly store and label chemicals and use them in well-ventilated areas. Personal protective equipment such as gloves and goggles may be required. Be aware of spill containment and clean-up procedures. You must report any spills or leaks to your DS Smith sponsor. If you encounter a hazardous situation, report it immediately. Your safety and the safety of your colleagues is our top priority.
Where a site has asbestos present, it will have an asbestos survey and an asbestos management plan, AMP. The presence of asbestos should have been identified in your risk assessment for intrusive works. If asbestos has been identified at your place of work, on arrival to site, and before works commence, a detailed review of the asbestos plan must be undertaken so you understand the risk. If you discover any material during the course of your works that you consider may contain asbestos, stop immediately and report to your site sponsor.
Managing accidents, incidents and observations is critical to our safety culture. If you see something unsafe, report it promptly. Observations help us identify and address potential hazards. In the event of an accident or incident, no matter how minor, report it. Our goal is to learn from these events and continuously improve safety measures. Remember, reporting accidents and observations is not just a responsibility, it's a commitment to the well-being of yourself and your colleagues. In case of a medical emergency, knowing basic first aid is invaluable. We have trained first aiders on site, and you can identify them by their badges or from our notice boards. Familiarise yourself with the locations of first aid stations, emergency eye wash stations, and safety showers. In case of injury, notify a first aider or supervisor immediately. Always wear the appropriate PPE to prevent accidents. Remember, your well-being and that of your co-workers is a top priority, and knowing basic first aid can make a significant difference in an emergency. DS Smith always prioritises environmental protection and energy conservation. We aim to minimise our environmental footprint and reduce energy consumption. By law, you must clearly label any waste and store it securely. Only ever dispose of waste to authorised sites. You must complete a transfer note if you're taking any waste off-site. You must receive written permission to dispose of waste in a skip at a DS Smith site, and you must make sure you dispose of the waste in the correct designated skip. Never dispose of any waste into drains or gullies on site, and remember to report any spills or leaks immediately. It's your responsibility to keep your workspace tidy. Protect your own equipment and leave workspaces safe and tidy at the end of the day. Conserve energy by turning off lights and equipment when not in use. We encourage everyone to contribute to our sustainability efforts. Being environmentally conscious is not only good for our company, but for the planet as well. Thank you for watching and understanding why your safety and the safety of those around you is DS Smith's top priority. If you need any additional information on any of the subjects covered in this film, please speak to your supervisor, manager, and/or site health and safety team. At DS Smith, we're proud of our record of keeping people safe at our sites, but we're never complacent. We want you to enjoy your visit to our sites and, most importantly, we want you to go home safe at the end of your visit. Be sure you play your part in keeping our site safe. Now, we're going to ask you to complete a test. We'll ask you a number of questions, and all the answers were in the video you've just watched.